Hello, my name is Stuart Lamb, president of BlueArrow Telematics, and I have with me Dallas Owens, who is actually one of our sales consultants here. And I wanted really, Dallas, just to meet with you and do a little interview with you myself. And, you know, for the first thing I want to ask you is just about, you know, your experience here so far, and what have you found to be the most challenging thing about being in this industry, having come from another industry that was sales, and you obviously did well there as well. But what is the challenge here versus what you've been in the past?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge in our industry is that the people that we work with on a day-to-day basis are extremely busy, right? So pretty much every company that we work with, they have, it seems to be very understaffed just due to the nature of fleet. And so, you know, getting time on someone's calendar to actually talk through issues is a challenge because they're facing so many issues of, you know, just managing what they currently have. And so really just getting in front of people is definitely a challenge.
I couldn't agree more, and I totally agree because I've dealt with the same challenges since I've been in business, and that's quite a long time compared to you. But I will say that is a challenge. But I will say one thing with you in particular, I am seeing you get in front of people more. I am seeing you have the opportunity. You've brought them in our office, and I know that they are coming in and their eyes and ears are wide open. What have you found that when you get that opportunity to sit down with people, not only in the initial sale, but maybe 3 months, 6 months later, what do you find that you're able to do with a customer at that point in time?
Yeah, I think it's all about just how I try to go about every opportunity. So I think people get tired of a salesperson calling on them or getting a bunch of emails or, you know, quick pitches over the phone because they feel like they have no time. So just knowing that, I understand they're busy, and so I try to take a different approach and be more on a human level with them and just ask questions. What we find is, or what I find, and I'm sure you know everyone else does too, is that if you ask the right questions, they'll stop what they're doing and answer those questions because you can differentiate yourself really quickly by asking the right questions. So when you get their curiosity by asking a question that they haven't heard before, because they're getting calls from our competitors talking about price, product, and whatever, and we're not talking about those things, I think it kind of throws them back sometimes. And so that's kind of step one. And step two is you know, we like doing things as much in person as possible. And so due to us being, you know, located in North Carolina, I call in a lot of North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina companies. And so we try to do as much, or I try to do as much in person as possible.
Yeah. Well, and I agree. I think it's very helpful when you can, you know, kind of talk to customers. But even there, you know, COVID-19 kept you from going out. You obviously had a lot of sales during that time where customers were buying even in such a challenging time. And you had customers who maybe put everything on a pause mode. But when you look at those customers that were dealing with COVID-19 and what you were kind of hearing and facing as far as challenges, what did you offer to them that maybe if they were working with another provider out there, that provider would be like, huh, what are you talking about? What were you doing different? Because I know you had a lot of activity going on during that time.
Yeah, so there's really a lot of different answers to that. I think on our current customers, you know, what we were doing was proactively reaching out, trying to see, you know, if there's anything that we could do to help them, whether it's giving them billing relief, which was not our, you know, not my primary focus. That was more on our support side. But, you know, what I wanted to know was, hey, you're already paying for this. So let's look at different weaknesses that you guys may be having and data you're not looking at to help you through this time. So can we become more efficient, or can we use it certain, you know, can we use the data in a different way that we haven't thought about yet, or can we do the same operations with less vehicles? At the end of the day, you know, our customers, they understand that they're not locked into a contract with us. And so during, you know, the whole COVID-19 thing, they could have canceled at any time if they didn't see the value in it. And, you know, I think a lot of people were feeling trapped with other providers who did lock them in and weren't providing that value. But really just, you know, I had a few customers that really kind of went back to square one of almost like I was reselling them because we wanted to walk through, you know, 2 years later, what have we not implemented that we wanted to 2 years ago, right? So really just having honest and the, you know, candid conversations with customers, I think not only shows them that we're here to actually help them, not just sell them a product one time and walk away, but you know, work with them in the long term. And then, you know, with prospects, it was kind of the same thing. Right. You know, we understand that there's going to be ups and downs in the economies, whether that's, you know, systemic issues like we've seen in the past, whether it's viruses that we're seeing now. There's always going to be ups and downs in an economy. And so because we know that, if you look at history, then they need to be partnering with a provider that can be flexible in those times and actually is giving them a return on investment to where it makes it worth their money and where the solution is actually a necessity, not a nice to have.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So the other question I have for you is, we know that you've been a big advocate of integration services, professional services that we offer, and you've seen us kind of grow that area. But I know you're one of those that tends to bring it up with everybody, including large and small customers. Where do you see that in your customer base? What do you think is going to make that such a big deal in the future?
Yeah, I think currently it's more, again, I make it a big deal because I'm just trying to listen to what challenges they're having with even our solutions right now. So a lot of times that's where they may have a few different solutions, maybe some they got through us, some they didn't get through us, and it's a pain having to pull different, data from different sources, then having to spend all this time to put all that data together. And so, again, you're looking at a lot of wasted time when there's a really high potential for us to be able to automate that process for them. At the beginning of this, I talked about how it's hard enough to talk to our customers as it is because of not only their industries, but the role they play within that company. And so, when we're having those types of conversations, they'll listen because they understand that, 15 minutes or an hour of talking to us now is going to save them hundreds of hours later of doing all this, manual data entry that they don't need to be doing. They need to be doing other things. So that's why I bring it up so much.
I totally agree. I think that's a great point. Now, the other question I have for you is about the type of customers that you're dealing with, the larger customers that, maybe 200, 300 trucks, that type of thing. When you talk to them, who do you typically want to have in a meeting? I know you're probably dealing with a fleet manager. Who else did you want to bring into that meeting?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's that all depends on the industry of kind of who's driving decisions, who's signing checks and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, we want to have people kind of in two levels. We want to have, and they may be the same person, but we want to have people that are using it every day because they're the ones who can most accurately define and explain their challenges they're having on a day-to-day basis to a management team or to an owner group, whatever it may be. And then obviously we want to have the operations manager, some sort of chief operations officer, some sort of chief technology officer, someone that would actually handle the actual higher level view of what that technology is doing within their organization. Because when you work with just a fleet manager, to use your example, they may not see the potential to integrate that solution to other systems they may maybe be using. So, by involving as many people as possible, they can see a lot more opportunities where that data can be shared within the organization. And so really at least those two people, and then really anyone that's going to be using that data anywhere in the organization is important. So it could be someone from HR, it'll definitely be someone from the safety side of things. Obviously anyone on the ownership team that we can get to join, we want them because, it's their company, it's their baby. And so they care about the longevity of their business, which is what we're talking about. And so, there's really no one that we don't want in that meeting.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a great point because I think most of the time a company thinks the only people that need our information is a fleet manager. But in reality, if you can sit down a group of operations and even like, if you think about a dispatching person in a company, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've gone in a meeting where we sat down with a dispatching manager or someone in that department, and they just sit there and tell us all the headaches they have, and we're able to bring in a solution that resolves it just like that. Yeah, so I know you also understand the value of what we as a company are trying to achieve, which is to develop a hub, a single place for everybody to go to. And I think we're finding that we're getting closer and closer to that, where it's going to be required by customers as well. Why do you think that will be such a big deal for customers compared to what it is today, maybe?
Yeah, I think just by nature, once a company starts working with any sort of vendor, if they have a good relationship and a good partnership with that vendor, they're going to want to do as much as possible through that vendor, right? So just by knowing the nature of how we like to do business as people, and we always go to the same stores and we want to buy as much stuff from the same store as possible, there's a reason behind that. A lot of times it's because you're familiar with it. It's going to save you a lot of time from having to go to a bunch of different stores. And so you can apply those same principles in a business with using vendors. If one vendor, a company can go to one vendor for everything relating to that topic and maybe more. It's going to save them a ton of time. It's going to save them money because we can probably do a lot of different sort of bundle discounts and all that sort of stuff. And also that'll give us a better understanding of the total picture, which is going to save them a lot of money when we're talking about return on investment within what that solution is doing for their business. So there's a lot of reasons, but that's kind of the main one.
Yeah, well, I agree. And I think for us, I think the goal is, first of all, learning what the company's end goal is in getting a telematics solution. And I know you take a lot of time to learn that when you're talking to your customers. And then ultimately, we probably have to piece together a plan because, not every company is going to want to go out and throw in everything that we think could help them right away. Yep. So how do you handle that when you start working with customers that in the back of your mind that, man, 3 or 4 of these solutions would be perfect for them, but maybe they don't have the financial way of kind of getting into all of them at the same time? What's your suggestion at that point?
Yeah, so obviously we want to, as a business, deepen that relationship as much as possible, which means more solutions and all that sort of stuff, because we see the value in it because we're preaching it on a day-to-day basis. So that being said, what we think is not important, right? I mean, we'd like to think it's important because we have experience, but what's really important is what they think is important, what their top priorities are. Now, along with that comes the standpoint from us being consultants and sharing different information that they may not be privy to because, again, they have a million things going on. We have the ability to do a lot of research in the industry. We're talking to hundreds of companies all the time, and so we get a lot of feedback. But that being said, what we want to do is really go through our 3 areas of safety, efficiency, and looking at their maintenance costs, anything related to that. And when you're having those conversations with companies, there's not one company that's the same. They're going to have different priorities, and you can learn that usually by going to a website and just seeing, certain companies, and especially in certain industries, are safety's number one. That's what they're spending their money on. No ifs, ands, or buts. And then some companies are, not that they don't care about safety, but they're extremely maintenance focused. Mm-hmm. And a lot of time that comes from what the owner or what management really cares about. But also a lot of times it has to do with what personnel they've hired. If they have a big maintenance team, they're going to be more focused on maintenance and efficiency, that sort of stuff. If they have a big safety team, they're going to be more focused on safety. So there's a lot of factors that play into that, but really when it comes down to putting together a plan for them, it's going to just come down to asking them questions and listening to what they tell you.
Yeah, I agree. And you've done a really good job of that, because I do know a lot of your customers start out, but then, you always tell me, yeah, they're going to start with this, but I think within a few months they'll move into that. And typically it's well within that. And I would probably attribute that to the fact that the solutions that you sell them originally save them enough money that they can actually afford to buy the other solutions pretty quickly, compared to somebody that might think they had to wait a year or two. I mean, most of the time our return on investment for the first solution gives them enough money to go out and do it pretty soon after they start the process. Well, Dallas, I'm proud of it. You've done a great job. We're excited to see the future with you here, and I know the customers are very happy to work with you as well. So if you have not met Dallas, please give us a call and let him kind of do his thing with you. I think you'll learn that he's going to give you a wealth of knowledge about this industry. Thank you so much.